Check, check. Hi. It's really great to be here today. I'm Alex from Chics on Speed. Thank you for the introduction. So I'm at the moment. How should I start? So I've been in the group Chics on Speed for 17 years, and we are a collective. And the core of the group is Melissa Logan and myself. And about 2 years ago, I started doing a PhD at University of Technology in Sydney in the Creativity and Cognition Studios in engineering and IT. And you're probably thinking, what's an artist doing in the engineering and IT department? And so there's this, I suppose there's this sort of drive in the university at the moment, and they want to bring together technologists and artists together to collaborate on projects. And so that's why I've sort of ended up in this department, and it's been a really amazing experience to collaborate with technologists, circuit builders, but also technologists who are coming out of the conservatorium. So they're trained in music, in traditional musical instruments, but they're also coders and circuit benders and so on and so on. So it's been really amazing. But what I'd also like to say with that is that I'm also very interested to connect academia with the arts and see where this crossover is and how to subvert it, or how we can break down the ivory tower, you could say, and free information. So the group Chics on Speed produces pop music, live art, textiles, fashion, and we build media installations. And I'm just going to give you a bit of more of an academic spiel about sort of what I'm doing, but then I'm going to totally subvert that. So I work in the area of fashion acoustics, and I came up with that term because it's a term that describes the synthesis between analog fashion and wearable computers. And object instruments are something that Chics on Speed came up with in about 2005, and they're wearables for performance, basically. And we wanted to make these instruments because we needed something to create a spectacle on stage, because when you're like performing with an electronic backing track, you really need to create a spectacle and not look down into a keyboard and or into a laptop for that matter. So we really wanted to have something that we could wear on the body and choreograph the way that we play that instrument. So I'm going to present, oh, just 1 second, I need to just plug in. So I'm just going to give a short overview of what Chics on Speed is with a series of slides, and then I'm going to jump into the more instrument bodyscapes. So I present a series of tangible body-centric user interfaces for creating music with handcrafted objects, which could be seen as analog and bespoke, one-off pieces designed for a specific scene in a performance or individual person to represent a personalised acoustic resonance. And I discuss a tool space in between analog and digital design concepts, as well as the physical design of the object instruments. And I also describe recent interactions with the digital musical instruments at public events in museums and their impact on the dramaturgy in live performance. So dramaturgy, which I think you'll all know what it is because it's a German word, is the creative development of a performance. So Chics on Speed is not just about a one-dimensional, two-dimensional space. It is the all-encompassing artwork, the Gesamtkunstwerk. So we really work between the mediums of screen printing on paper, textile, video, pop music, fashion, shoes, various 360-degree mediascapes where the viewer can come in and actually jam with other participants or prosumers, producer-consumers. We make pop albums. We collaborate with brands on t-shirts and fashion wear, like Insight on Chics on Speed, which was a surfwear collection. So in a way, fashion for us was always more of a necessity, because on stage you always need something very loud, and by making our own clothes, it was the perfect way to express ourselves in that medium. And it's really like that thing of having an idea and wanting to stretch that idea as far as you can possibly go. So this was like a song that we made for the brand called Super Surfer Girl, and the whole collection was based around surfwear for Chics. And then we make films, and here's the shoes. So it's like one of the textile designs will then be printed on the shoe, on the fabric that goes to the shoemaker, and then the shoes are made, and then so on and so on and so on. So it's really about this progression of one idea and stretching it. And any moment at any time is the performance. Backstage in Vienna for the show. And these are just some of the performances that we've done at Kunsthalle and My Art Fair. So yeah, the body, it all started with the body and wanting to create some sort of a resonance around the body, and how we can do that, but use our own bodies. But aside from that, it's all about shoes. So after this big obsession with shoes, you know, within Chics on Speed, it always came back to shoes. It went from the body to making hats, to making cigar box synthesizers. Then it comes back to shoes again. But I'll talk more about shoes later. Because we are data. If we think of the body, where we are today with all our gadgets, wir sind Daten.
We data what we want, what we need, what we reserve, what we want, what we look for, what we need, what we reserve, what we want, what we look for, what we collect, bookmark and share, what we buy and sell, what lighten, what we spread out, brighten, what we talk about and copy, and borrow data. Data, what we find and end, what we save and delete, what we need, what we reserve, data.
1 second. So, for the German speakers, one moment.
Lives, collected data. How do you find it? What kind of search engine do you use? What we buy, what we sell, what do you want?
Die Infosphäre bestrahlt es in die Luft. Die sphärische Hülle, der elektromagnetische Wellen muss frei sein wie die Luft. Wir atmen Daten, wir trinken Daten. Wir schwimmen und ertrinken in Daten, während Daten strömen. Was wir suchen, was wir suchen, was wir sammeln, was wir denken, unser Weite und probieren. Wir sind Datenpflege, wir sind Suchmaschinen, wir sind Daten.
Wir sind Daten, wir sind Daten, wir sind Daten, wir sind Daten. Daten. Was wir wollen, was wir brauchen, was wir buchen, was wir wollen, was wir suchen, was wir brauchen, was wir buchen. Was wir wollen, was wir suchen, was wir sammeln und verteilen, was wir kaufen und verkaufen, was wir leiten und verbreiten, was wir sprechen und kopieren, konfigurieren und verlieren. Was wir finden und beenden, was wir sichern und verlöschen, was wir brauchen, was wir buchen, was wir wollen, was wir suchen, was wir brauchen, was wir buchen, was wir wollen, was wir suchen, was wir sammeln und verteilen. Was wir kaufen und verkaufen, was wir leiten und verbreiten, was wir sprechen und kopieren, konfigurieren und verlieren. Daten. Touches the physical world. Transmute through the firewall. Move over, input on the research edge. Slave to the search machine. You hit send and say the Chics. So where to start? It was the collective. Yes, there's a lot of talk about the collective. The body. These experiments began with our bodies as collaborative analog instrument, using what one has, oneself, multiplied to form a group. The contemporary temporary sculpture, the body and its data shadow, creating a digital bodyscape. The analog body and its resonating sounds, butt slap bongo. This is our first attempt to make a musical instrument with the body. Sorry. And then, yeah, I know. The neighbours were not very happy about that. So everyday rocks with contact microphones. What can happen? So the analog sounds extracted from the rocks and put through Max MSP and then into Ableton Live, and making different sounds and looking like cave women on stage. And then Melissa had this idea with being able to go into a room and creating your own party wherever you go. So wearing this amplification device on your head. And so we developed this with Biped in Barcelona.
Communication medium,
and it was like, sitting there and soldering a lot of modules. And I've been hearing that word of soldering a lot of modules. And there were a lot of modules to solder in these hats. And so the hats were amplification devices made in collaboration with hat designer Christoph Coppens. And the way that we work on projects is really in a very collaborative nature. So we worked with this, so we were working with Befacco on the circuits, Christoph with the hat design, and us with how we're going to actually use these hats. Also coming up with that idea of why do we want to use these on stage? What do we need? It's always that thing as a performer, what do you need? You know, what's not working? What's missing on stage? You know. And these were about, they were coming, the original concept came from illuminated drawings of Hildegard von Bingen, a 12th century Christian mystic who received visions. So it was this idea of channeling these visions from above and then extending them out into the audience. And it was sort of, these hats transmit the utterances of their wearers by way of self-contained microphones and speakers. The contemporary beautified woman can amass her own power tools. A communication medium with unlimited performativity. It was a success.
So I have a very strange feeling in my head that the whole world...
Let me go back 1 second. So this man you're about to see now, this is always the thing, it's nice to see where the objects, where they go to. And this is Andrei Smirnov from EMS Synthesizers. You don't hear much about him because everybody's always talking about Moog synthesizers, but he has a great story about how his electrical engineer was hijacked and taken to Moog, and all of his secrets were given to Robert Moog. But who knows?
So I have a very strange feeling in my head that the whole world is going around and around.
But I'll stop there. Mainly because there's a talk with Mika next, and it's about kitsch, and actually that whole song is based on kitchen utensils. So then I come to the Theremin tapestry. You know, we'd made the hats, and we needed something that was more associated with the body, but more about creating a gestural choreography on stage where we could actually play a very visual instrument. So we basically wanted something that would function as like a theatrical backdrop. So it's not a wearable piece in a sense, but at the same time, a theremin is very about the body. And it's using original theremin technology that was developed at the Theremin Institute in Moscow by Andrei Smirnov. And that we wove in 4 conductive wires into the tapestry. We worked with the Australian Tapestry Workshop in Australia, and we worked with Alex Posada on the circuits. And so it was really a collaboration again between weavers, ourselves, and technologists. And so then this piece really came alive inside the exhibitions. And the thing is with this, I am going to just give a little bit of an academic spiel to this, because it is, in a way, I suppose in the world of digital musical instruments, you would see this as an augmented instrument. Now, augmented instruments retain the full functionality of an original instrument by including mechanical workings of the traditional instrument. However, they've been modified to interact with the computer with the addition of sensors that are intended to capture either traditional or extended techniques. So, in a way, the research outcomes of the Theremin tapestry were this integration of analog and digital, which is something that always reoccurs in the work of Chics on Speed, to learn techniques, whether it's macrame or knitting, and integrate etextiles or circuitry into that. And just a sec. So, as I was saying, the instruments really come alive in the various contexts where we have them, and one of those contexts is the Gesamtkunstwerk, like exhibitions that we put on, called Scream, that have just toured around Australia. Or inside film.
Born again. Of your violent language. Yeah.
So in that, the tapestry became a metaphor for entering into this surrealist dreamscape. The film was actually commissioned by Villa Stuck in Munich, and it was a 10-minute, well, basically 6 different artist groups were invited to do remakes of Buñuel's film L'Âge d'Or. And we remade the part with the boy gang with Max Ernst, and we did it with our girl gang in the desert of Australia, near Kalgoorlie, which is the mining fields there. And we saw that in a way, the Theremin tapestry was the perfect metaphor for that, because actually the piece is based on various philosophies of what does the eye hear, and it was introducing that concept and using that in the medium of film. So we also worked with sewing machines, just by simply putting a contact microphone onto the machine and then running that through various pedals. And I think this and the rocks were really our introduction to how to use just like ready-made objects and things on stage in a very simple way, and see how we could get the best sounds out of them just by using guitar pedals, which are really effective if you connect one to the other. We also made a series of cigar boxes. And again, this is that notion of augmented instrument, but in a way that's reverse, because these are all copies of original synthesizers that existed in the early 90s. So like a Roland 808 and a no control noiser, for example. And these are the super suits that we developed together at Hangar and with Boris Edelstein, who's here today from Module 8. And I think we were a little bit bored with just playing on stage and not being able to affect the projections that we had. So it was basically like this, it was like, okay, we're standing in front of a projection and we're singing. So we thought it'd be great if we could somehow trigger loops, compositions out of our own bodies. And so we worked on these pieces that are called super suits. This was about 5 years ago or so. And I mean, these all look really quite bulky today, if you see what you can get instead of what we were using. I mean, we had really big battery packs with an XP and big batteries in there, and now it could all be shrunken to something really beautiful. So in a way, yeah, I mean, at the end we ripped these out of these outfits because it was almost like we were creating like a cover for, we were hiding the electronics, and now we'd much prefer to do something where the electronics are actually exposed and it's part of the whole workings and the transparency of the piece. And this is the sort of mediascape that we created. So it was actually on us, but also we were moving within that. And each loop that we triggered from the body was basically a different sound loop and a video loop. But again, you know, it's always that nice thing of one instrument leads to another. And so this then actually led to us working with apps. And we developed a series of apps that's just come out with our album. And it was really taking that experience from, okay, triggering from the body and creating an audio-visual collage. And so basically this is a public user interface that anybody can upload their one-shot audio-visual loops and then actually cut them up. And each section you can trigger the different sounds and create your own images. And just thinking about this, because there was another thing with playing on stage, you know, you have the audience, and I know this has become quite popular in recent times to create sort of interactive shows, but a lot of them sort of seem fake. So we're thinking, oh, you know, how can we make our audience into a producer-consumers where they actually take over the show? And this was sort of one motivation, getting closer to that. So now at our performances we take iPad apps and the audience actually do really take over the show with these. And this is the sort of, oh, you don't really see it. Anyway, yeah, that's the sort of collage that can, audio-visual collage. And just playing also with, I mean, I know this is not wearables, but I just sort of want to show a little bit of where Chics and Speed is coming from with this merging of analog and digital together. And that thing of like, so building an interface that you can't do beat matching with, that you actually have to relearn how to beat match or cut and paste and mix music together. And this is Andy Banana. So it's a banana vocoder microphone. Oh, you won't see it.
Welcome to Dubai International Airport. Please proceed straight ahead to board the train for BNC gates. If you need any further information, please proceed to the nearest information zone.
Using the microphone, so.
in Embarkation. Emirates Airline, Flight 1.
And so then working with various, taking again that medium of collage and mixing it up on the wall and then working with connect systems. So sometimes the objects are on the body, but we're also becoming more interested in this bodyscape and that interrelationship between people actually live composing in a space. So what happens when they're moving around this area of the collage or that area, and how can they connect with each other and compose. And these are some of the sonic patchworks. We made this one with Martin Kaltenbrunner from Interface Cultures in Linz. And again, it's actually I wanted this piece to be for the body, but it isn't yet, but the next series will be. And so there's 9 different pads, and there's a Raspberry Pi inside. And basically, there's 3 that are triggering MP3s, and the other pads are triggering filters that filter those. And so this is when it comes back to shoes. So this is actually my own research now that I've embarked upon and been working on for the last 2 years, and it's called Biped shoes, and it's based on the original work that Chics on Speed did into the high heel shoe guitar and the e-shoe, and this builds on top of that. And it is that idea of actually creating natural user interfaces, so pieces that, not seeing a piece as necessarily a prototype that will be mass-produced, but more a piece that will be made specifically for that person, for their needs, so the sounds that they would like to resonate from their bodies, and the style of shoes that they'd like to have, how the circuitry will be integrated, what sort of sensors they'll have. And this is a project that I'm working on between my university and Penn State University, and I'm in the kinesiology department as well, so really looking at muscles and what sort of sensors could be integrated into the shoe, but developing special sensors as well, so not just getting the gyro and the FSR and all the rest of it, but actually looking into what sensors could be made. For example, but first, wait, let me go back because I'm going too far. So, but also, I'm going to read a quote from Scrivener. And he says, technology and analogue craft and design share a common concern for generating artefacts that are intended to transform the world from what it is to something better. Both are concerned with intervention, innovation and change. So at the end of, I'm doing a practice-based PhD, and at the end of that, it's the actual artefact and that experience with going through all those stages with the artefact. And it's really a piece that's starting right from the ground up. So that shoes, they are a signifier of our personalities, of our bodies, of ourselves, of our moods. And anthropologists suggest that humans have worn shoes for around 40,000 years. We usually think about tools for the hands and shoes as protective coverings for the feet. Later, shoes became fashionable status symbols, collectibles, the subject of artworks, and even commodity fetish objects. So in anatomical terms, the foot is a complex organ made up of 26 bones, permitting humans to move through space, to walk, stagger, run, and jump. But the thing is, most research, or the way that we see the feet, we haven't really given the feet complex creative tasks to perform. So with these shoes, this is one of my motivations to actually give the feet more importance, in a sense, because we talk about manipulation, but we rarely speak about pedipulation. And so simultaneously, the foot provides the metaphorical ground for a series of ontological concepts and value judgments that bring the body and the world into being. So it's these very acts of communication of the foot that I propose footwear as an ideal model to fulfill this requirement. And there's a huge history of acoustic shoes, whether it's from tap shoes. that have been seen in film, or there's been a great deal of developments with shoes in the area of health or virtual reality. But then we need to go back to shoes like, various patents that were filed in 1930, or the very first computer actually that was integrated into, a wearable computer that was integrated into a shoe, and this was to beat the roulette wheel in gambling. And then there were all sorts of, maybe things that didn't quite make it to be successful in the market, and that was like the Mibari, where you had insoles that had various sensors. And very important developments that took place at MIT around 1997 by Joe Paradiso and his team. And I suppose for me, he's one of the main predecessors for my work into this, because he was able to integrate so many different sensors that were triggering various musical samples, and he was working with dancers. So I think I'm sort of leading off from a lot of what he's done, but also what's been done in virtual reality, and also heel strike to collect energy. But let me go back again. So the reason I went on to build on this work from Chics on Speed was because we developed the high heel shoe guitar. And that's where this whole obsession sort of began, with taking everyday fashionable items and making them into musical instruments, but in an analog sense, because this was an analog guitar pickup that you put a jack in the back, and you can play 3 strings. You can't really do much with it because those strings you can't really tune. So it was really more for experimentation and improvisation on stage. And this led to the more high-tech e-shoe, which is the high heel shoe guitar, but with a lithium battery inside it, an XB, and that is talking to Maximus P and then Ableton Live. And it's pretty much just triggering the 3 different strings. So it's not when you walk that it's triggering sound. So it's really from here that my Biped shoe project is taking off. And it is really in the beginning phases. So the way that I've started, sorry, just one sec. Oh wait, I'll just show you inside the e-shoes so you can see what was there. And it was funny. This was when we made this shoe. This was just before the whole 3D printing really started, and we had to design the shoe and pretty much go into the industrialization process, and it was a lot more expensive when we did this. So it wasn't like you could just print something out and have it sent to you within 7 days from Shapeways or something like that. It was really doing 3D modeling and then having to make this expensive decision. Yes, we're going to put this into production now. And we did that, and it was very expensive, and it meant, though, that we couldn't make changes to it. So we ended up with this fantastic shoe, but it was impossible to walk, or so in a way it was like it failed. And well, on the other hand, we didn't fail, because we had to develop various techniques for playing the shoe, and that meant somebody else collaborating with you while you were wearing the shoe. And we did it, yeah, we played with it a little bit. And in a way it was sort of like, yeah, it didn't really work though. So the irony of it was it ended up in the museum. So it became dead art, and that's not what wearable technology is about, especially for performance, because it's really, you're really meant to be performing with it and making some noise on stage. So those are really the drawbacks of that shoe. But it was a great deal to learn from. Here, I'll play a little video about it.
Music is my favorite album.
You're not really seeing it. most successful part of the issue was that Kate Moss ended up wearing it naked in Brazilian Vogue. So that was sort of the end of the issue project, because she trashed it anyway. No, really. So then, going on. So then the Biped shoe project started, and like what you were saying, where do you start working with wearable technologies? So, although we've been doing these really massive collaborations with people, we haven't really been building the circuits ourselves. So I was like, okay, I want to start from ground up and, get soldering and see what I can do. Just, and really take it slowly, really not go as fast as we did with the issue, because that's what led to that mistake of it being too high. Just go slow, start off with ready-made shoes. And so what I did was I got piezo contact microphones and just very simply connected them to the base, taped them to the leg, and soldered telephone wires onto them and ran them into a wireless microphone. So we're quite used to wearing those on stage. And instead of, and just transmitting that sound into Maximus P, and then that's transferred, mapped basically into other sounds. So I was concentrating more on what will be the physical mappings and how, what sounds are each of these people wanting to make on stage? Like, what is their personal resonance within a performance? And so we played with ideas of, doing workshops with the shoes, and each dancer just, okay, so starting off with cynetics research from the 60s, where does creativity come from? Okay, analogies. So we created metaphors, and one of those metaphors was remote-controlled shoes. So we started having everybody react to this, and we worked together for like 3 days and 5 hours a day, and we ended up creating a choreography and creating specific mappings for each person and their different movements, and then this was performed in 2 different museums. But so the reason I wanted to start so slowly was just to see, okay, what do I really want these shoes to do, and what do performers expect from them? So it was also nice to be on the other side to see, not to be the one saying, I wanted to do this and this and this and come up with these preconceived ideas, but rather leave it to people who maybe don't have sound experience, but more a movement experience. And so now I'm at the point where we're taking that, in a way, that knowledge and putting that into the second prototype. And I really think that this project, it will probably be another year and a half until we get to the prototype where I'd say, like, okay, now I'd like to put this into production. And so the next one we're doing is just pretty much a 3D printed transparent hollow heel, and the circuit is sitting in there, and we'll have like 10 different types of sensors in there. So compass, gyro, and everything else that you can imagine, GPS, and just see what we will do with that. And also, interestingly, will be to see what sort of data will be generated out of that. So, because with these experiments, we didn't collect the data, we purely mapped the data live, so while they're moving and they're live composing. And I'm really more interested now to see, like, could you do certain visualizations with that data, and how can that affect the design? And so that's sort of where I'm at with that, and there's a long way to go. But there's a long tradition, I just wanted to say, of sensorial objects in performance art. But thank you very much.